Incredible moment revealed. Little girl asks billionaire CEO to pretend to be her dad on flight. The airport terminal buzzed with the cacophony of excited reunions and tearful farewells, each more vivid than the last. Lily, a bright-eyed 8-year-old, sat hunched over her backpack, watching families embrace with a mixture of yearning and disappointment. Raised by her grandmother, who tried her best but often seemed weary, Lily's heart longed for the mother she barely knew. Today she was on an adventure, flying alone to see her estranged mom. Yet, with every minute that her flight was delayed, that adventure felt more distant. She was surrounded by laughter and smiles, but the stark contrast between her world and theirs gnawed at her. What would it be like to feel that kind of love? Would her mother even recognize her? In her imaginative mind, she pictured the warm embrace she craved, each thought a petal shedding from a flower of hope that was wilting fast. A gray-suited figure settled next to her. The nameplate on his briefcase read Alex Harrington. She didn't know who he was, but his furrowed brow and tight jaw suggested a man weighed down by the world. He buried himself in his phone, zipping through corporate emails, barely noticing the bustle around them. She felt an urge to break through his bubble, to reach out, but doubt clawed at her insides. Would her childlike chatter annoy him? "Hi, what's your name?" she asked, her voice bright, fighting against the ambient noise. He glanced at her, offering a curt nod. "Alex, are you going somewhere fun?" He sighed, attempting to refocus on his work. "Just business." Lily didn't understand that kind of life, the idea that money could buy everything except moments of real connection. She watched him as he wore his loneliness like a heavy cloak. The longer they sat in silence, the more her desire to engage grew. Finally, unable to withstand the weight of her solitude any longer, she leaned closer, filled with sudden courage. "Alex," she began hesitantly, "could you pretend to be my dad on the flight?" He stared at her, taken aback. The absurdity of her request struck him. What he replied, yet he felt an unexpected tug at his heart. "Just for a little while," she urged, her eyes sparkling with unquenchable hope. "I'm scared. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Alex hesitated, caught off guard. It was a small request, but it felt monumental. What was it that propelled her to seek out a connection with him? Wasn't that what he'd been missing in his own life? The tumult within him intensified. What could it mean if he agreed? As the plane finally boarded, the anticipation crackled through the air like electricity. Despite himself, he found his heart beating a little faster, a fragile thread of compassion weaving between them. The plane lurched into the sky, and turbulence rattled the cabin. Questions hung unspoken in the air as Lily leaned into him, her innocent longing spilling forth. As the winds howled, he felt a tightening in his chest. With each bump, every jerk of the plane, her small, trusting presence forced him to confront a truth he'd long ignored. What did success mean if he couldn't muster the courage to be present? The chaos outside mirrored his inner turmoil. And as the voice of a fellow passenger cut through the tension, recognizing him as a billionaire, Alex felt the weight of their judgments crash down. But amid the questioning glances, he caught sight of Lily's hopeful smile. Would he dare step away from the life that had hollowed him out? The seatbelt sign flickered ominously above, and the realization hit he was teetering on a precipice. And as turbulence shook the aircraft, every personal choice he'd made loomed large in the shadows. As they descended, both of their worlds poised on the brink, Alex's resolve crumbled like the clouds beneath them. Would he choose to ignore the bond burgeoning between them, or finally embrace the fatherhood he'd never dared to claim? Every second counted as the ground rushed closer. A reckoning awaited him, and he had to decide. The plane settled into a smooth glide, the tumult dropping away like the dissipating storm clouds outside. As the cabin shifted into a momentary calm, Alex's gaze flickered toward the window, contrasting his tumultuous thoughts with the serene landscape below. Miles of green and blue stretched endlessly, an unmistakable reminder of life's possibilities. Patch of earth representing a decision made or left unmade. Lily nested comfortably against him, blissfully unaware of the turmoil churning within Alex. The child's tranquility ignited a flicker of something in him. Was it nostalgia? He could see a reflection of his own lost childhood in her hopeful eyes, a childhood he'd exchanged for boardrooms and deal-making. His mind raced. He had always prided himself on being an unbreakable force in the business world. Yet sitting here, he felt utterly vulnerable, exposed, and on the verge of transformation. "Are you okay?" Lily's soft voice broke through his reverie, penetrating the armor of detachment he had built around himself. Yeah, I'm fine," he lied, managing a weak smile. It wasn't just a small girl asking for a connection. It was destiny presenting him with a crossroads. Confronted by her innocence, Alex felt shards of guilt prick at him. Here was this little girl, longing for affection and validation, and he was torn between the fear of stepping into a role he'd never played, and the urge to engage in a sincere way for the first time in years. "Why do you want me to pretend to be your dad?" he asked, trying to understand the request more deeply. "Because I'm scared to see my mom. I don't even know if she'll want to see me," she admitted, her voice a whisper weighed down by some doubt. Her vulnerability resonated with what Alex had buried in the depths of his own heart, the fear of being unworthy, the fear of rejection. The turbulence of their lives stirred in unison, and it struck him. If he could give her this tiny gift, this moment of security, perhaps he would find something for himself in return. The moral implications twisted around him, forcing him to reconcile the man he was and the man he wanted to become. Was it possible that a single act, a moment of connection, could redefine his entire existence? He had spent so many years defining success solely by his wealth and achievements, but was that what truly mattered? The plane lurched forward again, but Alex's thoughts held steady. He felt the weight of Lily resting against him, a gentle push demanding he choose differently. What if he seized this fleeting opportunity, if only for their flight? Acting as her father for a couple of hours would not just comfort her, it might catalyze a change in him. "All right," he said, turning toward her. "I'll pretend to be your dad." The relief that washed over her face was mesmerizing. In that split moment, he realized he wanted to rise to the occasion, that perhaps he could be more than just the enigma encapsulated in a corporate suit. It struck him deeply how the role of a father didn't come from blood but from the choice to care. As they prepared to land, a sense of resolve began to seal his scattered thoughts. But mixed with that resolve came a new disquiet. What would happen after this flight? Would he simply revert to the heartless businessman, or could he cultivate this connection that had so unexpectedly sparked to life? One thing was clear. This was not just an innocent request. This was an awakening, a chance for change, an invitation to step away from the abyss of his own making. The wheels touched down solid ground, but a new path lay ahead, his future intertwined with this little girl. What the next chapter would hold was uncertain, but as Lily squeezed his hand with ease, Alex understood he was entering into uncharted territory. Tomorrow awaited, and with it the challenges to confront the life he had neglected. Would he find the courage to sustain this newfound bond? Would he embrace fatherhood in a way he had never dared before? As they disembarked, the weight of those questions loomed like shadows, and Alex couldn't shake the lingering thought this was only the beginning. As they stepped into the bustling airport terminal, the bright lights and the cacophony of voices enveloped Alex like a whirlwind. Despite the overwhelming environment, his focus zeroed in on Lily, who remained close to his side, her small hand wrapped tightly around his fingers. For the first time in a long while, Alex felt a flicker of responsibility, the kind that had withered in the heat of endless meetings and transactional relationships. He glanced down at her. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation as she pointed out the various attractions in the airport, colorful stores, oversized advertisements, and excited travelers. In that moment, her excitement served as a reminder of the joy he had once found in simple discoveries. He wondered, could he foster that joy again, not just for her but for himself? "Where to first?" he asked, surprised by the enthusiasm in his tone. The question felt foreign, yet exhilarating. "Can we get ice cream?" Lily beamed, her innocence stripping away layers of Alex's hardened persona. "Sure," he replied, still grappling with an unfamiliar sense of lightness. They made their way to an ice cream stand, blaring bright colors, and as he ordered, he found himself drawn into the playful banter of the moment. The simple act of choosing flavors, negotiating sprinkles, and seeing her delight in every decision began to dissolve the barriers he had built around his heart. Sitting at a small table, ice cream cones in hand, Luke felt the weight of his previous life pressing on him, and yet there was a glimmer of liberation in the air. "You know, I think this is the best ice cream I've ever had," he said, taking a moment to bask in her laughter. "What's your favorite flavor?" she asked, her earnestness a subtle reminder of the human connection he often overlooked. That question hung in the air. The truth was, he had pushed aside preferences and pleasure for years. "I think it's chocolate," he admitted, chuckling at the simplicity of his answer. "Me too. We should start a chocolate club," she exclaimed, her voice dancing between giggles. The notion struck a chord. Alex had built clubs and connections based on power and strategy, but here was a club based on joy, imagination, and spontaneity. He thought about his own clubs, the boardrooms, the financial strategies, the weight of responsibilities, and he realized they had chiseled away joy from his existence. Holding on to the idea of a chocolate club, he contemplated how icily it linked to the burgeoning paternal bond he was slowly forging with Lily. A swell of determination washed over him, igniting a plan he hadn't allowed himself to consider until now. He wouldn't just pretend to be her father for the duration of a flight. He could seek out opportunities to be active in her life. This was uncharted territory, but it burned with potential. Could he reshape what fatherhood meant to him? Just then, a notification on his phone shattered the moment. A pithy email from a colleague outlining quarterly targets. The reminder of his corporate commitments felt like cold water splashed on his newfound perspective. His heart sank. Would the roller coaster of pressures and expectations at work suffocate this connection he was beginning to cherish? "Is something wrong?" Lily asked, concern etched across her small features. "Nothing I can't handle," he lied, brushing aside the constraints of the adult world to focus on this shared moment of innocence. Yet, internally, he grappled with a sinking realization. The true test would come when he made the transition from the carefree space of ice cream to the complexities of his corporate reality. As they finished their cones, he observed Lily animatedly recounting tales from her past. Each word she spoke struck him as a nail into the walls he had carefully constructed around his emotions. The tension of what lay ahead clashed against the warmth of newfound possibilities. How would he balance the demands of his former life with this burgeoning commitment? Could he ensure that he did not lose this bond as easily as he had forged it? Walking through the terminal, Alex's thoughts collided. Solidifying a singular truth, he was at a tipping point, a moment that stood pivotal in redefining who he could be. Uncertainty hovered in the air as they approached the exit leading to the world beyond, and he braced himself for the challenges that awaited. But one thing was certain, the moment of decision was near. Would he embrace the transformation as a father figure or fall back into the comfortable confines of his former self? The choice loomed ahead, vivid and unmistakable, demanding his immediate attention. As they stepped outside into the bright afternoon, the air felt fresh and electric around Alex. Walking beside Lily, he couldn't help but notice how the cacophony of the airport faded, replaced by the rhythmic sounds of city life. It was a stark contrast. His professional existence had been full of chaos tied to results and bottom lines, but this felt different, more genuine. In a surreal twist, her presence encompassed every aspect of his reality, and he found himself craving authenticity. "Can we sit there?" Lily pointed to a nearby bench bathed in sunlight, where travelers eagerly awaited their rides. They approached, and Alex allowed her to choose their spot. The simple act of letting her decide felt liberating. Why had he never paid attention to the choices she could make? Each decision felt like a step toward dismantling the walls he had built, fortified by years of corporate bravado. Adopting a light-hearted air, Alex asked, "What should we do next? We could look around some more." Lily's eyes sparkled again. "Can we find a dog park?" "Sure. I think I saw one on the way here. Let's check it out." Deep inside, he cherished the enthusiasm emanating from her suggestions. Each innocent idea seemed to draw him further into the potential of their relationship. He wasn't just a caregiver for this small period. He had a unique opportunity to redefine his role in someone else's life. As they approached the dog park, the joyous barks and laughter enveloped them like a warm embrace. But within that warmth, doubt began to creep in. The notification on his phone earlier was still fresh in his mind, the reminder of targets, of impending meetings, and the expectations from his colleagues. He realized that he was teetering on the edge of a precipice. The scars from years of corporate responsibility entangled with the growing bond he felt toward Lily. "Can we go in?" Lily urged, her face lighting up at the sight of playful dogs bounding about. His heart sank momentarily at the thought of losing precious time. "I should check my messages quickly. It won't take long." He promised himself he would keep this interaction brief, yet his fingers lingered over the screen as he read through another ominous email. "Daddy," came her soft voice. Alex looked up, met her wide blue eyes filled with uncertainty. "Silly me. Just a minute longer," he replied, forcing a smile. But as he scrolled through each email, regret flooded him. It occurred to him how often he had chosen work over warmth, spreadsheets over sunlit moments. Each click of the send button shattered any remaining illusion of priority. Alex finally interjected as Lily began fidgeting. "All right, let's go." He pocketed his phone, determined to focus purely on her desires as they ventured into the dog park. With each wagging tail and delighted barker, a part of him thawed. "Are you happy?" he asked, watching her reach out to pet a friendly golden retriever. She looked up, her smile not just brightening her face but lighting a spark inside him. "This is the best day ever." Despite the warmth in her response, he caught himself in a moment of conflicting emotions. Would he sustain this joy in the face of his demanding professional life? Did he have the strength to enforce this new dynamic? "Lily, can I tell you something?" he ventured, crouching to her level. A silence hung as he pondered over his words. "I want today to mean something special, not just for us, but for me too. Like chocolate." She giggled, the weight of what he tried to convey lost in the innocence of her laughter. "Kind of," he chuckled back, yet the depth of his words remained unspoken. They ambled further, filling the expanse of the park with laughter and dog barks. But inside, the unfamiliar pangs of commitment gripped him tighter. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows, Alex wrestled with the choice he faced. The pangs of corporate pressures ebbed and flowed at the edges of his thoughts, threatening to reclaim him. Could he really balance both worlds? He looked at Lily, blissfully unaware of the tumult within him. In that instant, he realized this moment was not merely a fleeting escape. It could be the foundation of a new path forward. But before he could dive deeper into resolving this internal chaos, a commotion erupted from the park entrance. Alex's heart raced. Who could be causing such a stir? In a mere heartbeat, the chaos at the gate transformed into something altogether unexpected. The sudden uproar at the park entrance seized Alex's attention. A throng of spectators had formed around a slender, distressed figure. A young girl, perhaps 5 or 6, was sobbing inconsolably, her small frame trembling. He felt an immediate rush of empathy, pulling at his heartstrings. Lily, still enchanted by her surroundings, glanced up at Alex with a curious frown. "What's wrong with her?" As he began to move closer, he couldn't help but notice her resemblance to Lily. A sharp pang of consciousness forced him to reconsider his focus. In this moment filled with pure need, how could he justify retreating back to the distractions of his office? "Let me check it out," Alex said, as he instinctively knelt to Lily's eye level, urging her to stay put but remain aware. "Wait right here." He approached the girl as she continued to wail, hands gripping the edges of a small stuffed animal. Kneeling beside her, he softened his voice. "Hey there, it's okay, what's happened?" Through hiccuped breaths, the child stammered about being lost, about her father an absent figure in her frantic words. Alex's heart sank as he realized her plight mirrored the loneliness he had once perpetuated in Lily's life. He instinctively looked back at Lily, who watched with wide eyes. "Can I help?" she asked, her gentle nature shining through even as anxiety seeped through her small frame. "That would be great, sweetie," Alex replied, thankful for her compassionate spirit. "Will you sit next to her and comfort her with that stuffed animal?" Lily nodded eagerly and approached, sitting close to the girl, offering her the soft toy while speaking softly. It's going to be okay. We're here with you. As he observed this interaction, Alex felt the walls he had built around himself begin to falter, collapsing under the weight of experience. Would this be the moment that shifted everything he believed about his capabilities as a father? Just then, a figure entered the park, tall, impeccably dressed, and projecting authority. A man, undoubtedly the girl's father, had appeared with a look of horror etched across his pale face. "Jamie," he yelled. The child turned, her crying halted by the sound of her father's voice. Yet Alex noticed something. The father's eyes skimmed over the scene. Landing on Alex, there was a flicker of understanding, a connection, born from shared paternal instinct. For a split second, Alex felt as though their roles crossed. He questioned why he felt an urge to stand taller, to project strength not just for his own daughter but for those in need. "Sir," Alex called out, his protective instincts sparking anew. "Your daughter has been feeling lost, but she's okay now." The father rushed to Jamie, sweeping her into his arms. Alex swallowed the overwhelming emotions bubbling inside him, recognizing shades of insecurity lingering in his sobering reality. The moment was bittersweet. He had stepped into something deeply human, only to retreat, overshadowed by someone else's successful reclamation. With warm thank yous exchanged, the father turned to Alex. "I appreciate you helping her." The man offered a firm handshake that ignited new currents of connection, however fleeting. As they left, Jamie waved, her earlier tears replaced by a beaming smile. "Thank you," she shouted, and Alex's heart swelled as Lily returned her wave. Yet, as laughter and joy seeped back into the park's atmosphere, a question loomed larger. How could he take this thread of compassion and weave it into a new fabric of his life, where family meant more than mere obligation? As he pondered this, he looked down at Lily, who was hopping around joyfully, completely unfazed by the emotional turmoil just moments before. In that sweetness innocent trust radiated. A challenge emerged. Could he continue this balance? Would the next moments be defined by the same small joys that brought their spirits alive? Or would the shadows of his past responsibilities pull him back into their embrace? The world around him shifted, and with it came a lingering doubt. Would the winds of change truly be strong enough to transform his impending corporate storm into a gentle breeze, leaving room for a blossoming relationship with Lily? As Alex took a deep breath, ready to walk back into the heart of the park with Lily, a subtle notification buzzed on his phone. Turning it over would reveal whether he could mend these spaces with him before it was too late. The moment hung in the air like an unspoken promise. Yet Alex hesitated. He was teetering on the brink of self-discovery, where opportunities for growth felt both thrilling and terrifying. The phone buzzed again, shattering his contemplation. Instead of dismissing the notification, he took a steadying breath and glanced down. A corporate email stared back at him, urgent, demanding his attention. A chance to secure a big client awaited, and his instincts screamed at him to prioritize career obligations. Yet, as he watched Lily revel in the park's simple joys, a resolve began to congeal within him. Could he reclaim some semblance of balance in this chaos that had become his life? As he shifted his gaze from the phone to Lily, he recognized not just the innocence of her laughter, but also the weight of his decision. He mulled over the countless hours spent in his office, buried under spreadsheets and missed family dinners, a reality he had crafted but now questioned. Every minute spent away from Lily was another moment where she might feel as lost as the girl Jamie had been just minutes before. "Hey, sweetie," he said suddenly, kneeling down beside her as she twirled with abandon. "What do you think about taking a little walk with me?" Lily's face lit up, and Alex felt a surge of warmth. This, he realized, was where his priorities should lie. With an arm around her shoulders, he felt the heaviness lift slightly, as though he were shedding the incessant demands of corporate life like dead skin. They wandered to a quieter corner of the park, surrounded by blooming flowers and the chirping of birds. Alex should have felt at ease, yet unease gnawed at him. Would he have the guts to break free from the shackles of his previous existence? Could he resist the siren call of corporate accolades, and immerse himself in the richness of fatherhood? "Dad," Lily's voice interrupted his spiral of thoughts. "What's wrong? You're thinking too much." Her innocent observation pierced through the worries swirling in his mind. "I was just wondering about how we can spend more time together," he admitted, feeling the weight of honesty. I know I've been busy, and I want to change that. Lily scrunched her nose, as if weighing his words. Like how you helped Jamie. Yes, like that, he answered, the connection suddenly clear. It wasn't about grandiose moments or epic gestures. It was in these simple choices, being present, showing empathy, and truly engaging. He could feel the path unfolding before him. As they continued to stroll, Alex opened up about his work, somehow managing to voice the struggles without the typical bravado that dissolved the humanity in his career interactions. He delved deeper into discussions about happiness, responsibilities, and the need to express compassion, not just as an abstract idea but as a tangible force. However, realization dawned on him. It was only a start. He felt a surge of determination settling in. The shadows of his past responsibilities still loomed large. Would one day be enough to redefine the narrative he had written for himself? Just as he mulled over this, they approached a small playground buzzing with laughter. Alex glimpsed familiar faces as team members, gathered for an impromptu company picnic. They waved, laughter emanating from their group like joyful beacons. The sight constricted his heart. He was caught between wanting to honor his commitment to work, and the newfound promise of a life rebalanced. Could he blend these worlds without losing what mattered most? As they called out to him, beckoning him towards them, Alex felt the weight of expectation push against him. He had the power to choose, yet the decision hung heavy in the air as he felt Lily tighten her grip on his hand. This is where the joy is, he muttered under his breath, questioning whether he would embrace it or remain shackled to the demands of his career. The moment of truth loomed just ahead, and with it, an urgent realization settled in. The time had come to face the defining challenge of his life. Could he step into his role as a father, or would he let the corporate tide pull him under? Lily looked up at him, her expression expectant. Just before Alex could respond, another notification buzzed from his phone, pulling him back once again. He hesitated, torn between familial warmth and corporate duty, aware that one was beckoning him forward while the other threatened to drown out their emerging connection. What awaited him on the other side of this tension? Alex stood at the crossroads, the sounds of laughter and joy from the picnic contrasting sharply with the sterile urgency of his phone. The fleeting glimpses of carefree interactions with his coworkers stirred a complex cocktail of desire and dread within him. Could he choose a path that bridged his dual worlds? Lily's grip tightened around his hand, a physical reminder of the responsibility he felt shifting from his shoulders to a more profound emotional weight. Each soft squeeze urged him to prioritize her, to show her that he could be present, not just in body but in spirit. What do you think we should do? He asked, the question falling between them like a bridge, an attempt to include her in his tumult of choices. Lily's brow furrowed in thought. Can we stay and play? Or go check out the picnic? Her voice held an innocence that punctured the chaos swirling in his mind. He nodded, taking in the scene where his colleagues enjoyed playful banter over burgers and soda, oblivious to the internal battle raging within him. Every familiar face felt like a piece of his past, demanding attention, pulling him away from this moment with Lily. Yet, the weight of their cheerful exchanges felt devoid of the substance he was actively seeking. As he stood there, deliberating, a sudden realization struck him. This was not merely about being a good father or an effective employee. It was about redefining who he wanted to be in both spheres of his life, merging the father he aspired to become with the dedicated professional he had been. He turned back to Lily and gathered her close. Let's go say hi. I want them to meet my amazing daughter. The determination in his voice surprised even him. It was a step toward courage, toward blending his worlds rather than feeling trapped between them. As they approached the gathering, he felt Lily's enthusiasm radiate through him, a potent antidote to his doubts. Her laughter echoed around the picnic as she ran ahead, her innocence infectious. Watching her engage with his team, he felt the contours of his heart reshape, each connection allowing him to stitch together the father, the employee, and the man he wanted to be. Alex, you made it. Jenna, his project manager, beamed as he approached. And who's this? This is Lily, my daughter. There was warmth in his introduction, a sense of pride swelling as he spoke her name aloud. Her presence turned his professional identity into something more wholesome, grounding him. Jenna crouched down, her expression softening. "Hey Lily, I heard you're a great artist. Can you draw me something?" Lily's eyes lit up and she nodded enthusiastically. This simple interaction sparked something critical within Alexa: realization that professional relationships need not be strained and disconnected, but could foster connections that supported his personal life too. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the afternoon flew by. They laughed, shared stories, and for the first time in a long while, Alex felt a genuine sense of belonging both in his role as a father and a leader. But as the day wound down, and the reality of pending work deadlines crept back in, uncertainty gnawed at Alex once more. Had he managed to create a balance, or was this just a temporary reprieve? This newfound joy felt fragile, as if one poor decision could send it all crashing down. With every step home, he pondered the path ahead. If he could weave together the love for his daughter with the ambitions of his career, perhaps he could build a new narrative entirely. But then, his phone buzzed again. A new notification ominously reminding him of the work commitments still looming over his head. He glanced at the screen: an invitation to a high-stakes meeting that could determine the trajectory of his career. Could he really keep his promise to be present while facing the relentless demands of ambition? The tension returned, thick and insistent, as Alex stared down at the phone, realizing that the next decision he made could either shatter his newfound sense of balance, or solidify it in a way he had never imagined. Would he confront this head-on and redefine the meaning of success? Or would the corporate tide claim him once and for all? Alex squeezed the phone in his hand, heart rate quickening as he read through the meeting details once more. The project was critical, a pitch that could secure funding for months of development. Yet, the internal dialogues collided within him, contrasting the implications of commitment to work against the fresh bond he felt with Lily. Using the picnic as a mental backdrop, he quickly juxtaposed his work life against this newfound clarity. The corporate ladder had always been a whirlwind, where every rung was muddled with expectations, competition, and a sense of loneliness. The laughter from the picnic contrasted sharply with the sterile corner office, filled with impersonal accolades. "Daddy." Lily's gentle voice broke his concentration, pulling him back to the moment. She tugged on his sleeve, her innocent eyes full of warmth. "Can we draw when we get home? I want to show you my picture." The simple joy in her request forced him to confront his priorities. Could he genuinely carve out time in a schedule that was already bleeding into the weekend with looming deadlines? The desire to create art with his daughter felt more fulfilling than almost anything else. But would it lead to a compromise in his career that he couldn't afford to make? "Of course, sweetheart," he replied, surprised by the firmness in his voice. He leaned down, kissing her forehead, while trying to shake off the gnawing guilt embedded in his chest. It wasn't just about what he accomplished for himself. It was about the emotional bank account he was building with Lily. Yet, as they settled into their evening routine, the weight of his professional obligations continued to linger like an uninvited guest. Papers awaited his attention, emails demanded responses, and that meeting loomed larger than life in the back of his mind. It wasn't just another business decision. It felt like the first real test of combining his two identities. With Lily nestled beside him on the couch, he watched her color with vigor, each page a new masterpiece. The purity of her creativity blanketed him with calm, leading to a slow realization: running headfirst into his work commitments would only lead to a deferred happiness. "Daddy, look," she exclaimed, waving her colorful creation in front of him. "It's us. You're a superhero and I'm a princess." The innocent joy radiating from her held a mirror to his heart, a reflection of his own deeper aspirations. He saw himself not just as a father but a man willing to redefine his roles. Perhaps, by embracing both dimensions of his life, he could foster a version of professional success that didn't demand sacrifice of his personal joy. With pivotal decisions pending on the horizon, he found himself contemplating a radical move. What if he rescheduled that high-stakes meeting? What if he openly discussed work-life balance with his superiors? Stepping away would be an act of vulnerability, something that terrified him at his core but also emboldened him. His heart raced as he opened his laptop, torn between sending an email that would assert his boundaries and crafting the words carefully. But that night, as he watched Lily's sparkling eyes, a new narrative began to formulate, one where his priorities aligned with his values. This could be his chance to model authenticity for his daughter, showing her that success is not merely in titles, but also in genuine connections. Before he could hit send, the doorbell rang, causing his thoughts to scatter. Who could it be at this hour? The uncertainty brought an unwelcome distraction, but it also sparked a curiosity that edged toward urgency. What awaited him beyond that door might very well influence the course of the balance he was trying to create. With a deep breath, Alex rose, the tension within him mingling with an unquenchable curiosity. As he opened the door, he couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was about to take an unforeseen turn, one that could challenge everything he had just pondered. Seeing the shadow of a figure framed in the doorway, Alex felt a surge of adrenalized tension. The figure stepped into view, an imposing man dressed in a sharp tailored suit, eyes sharp and calculating. The instant recognition of authority washed over Alex, and he instinctively stood a little straighter. This stranger wasn't just anyone. He was the CEO of a rival company, known for his ruthless business tactics and steely demeanor. "Alex," the man said, his voice smooth yet commanding. "Can we talk?" Alex hesitated for a moment. There was a time when a meeting like this would have thrilled him. Now, however, it felt like an intrusion into a fragile moment. Yet here he was, confronted by the very embodiment of the corporate world he had been questioning, balancing precariously between his commitments and aspirations as a parent. "Sure, come in," Alex replied, stepping aside to allow the man entry. The moment he closed the door behind them, he briefly caught Lily's gaze as she sat on the floor, engrossed in her drawings. It was a reminder of the life he desperately wanted to protect, the life he was trying to reshape. Without preamble, the CEO surveyed the room, eyes landing on Lily's colorful art strewn about. "You've got quite the setup here. Seems like family is important to you." Alex felt an involuntary defensiveness rise. "It is. Families shouldn't be neglected for business." "Easier said than done," the CEO replied with a hint of amusement that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Business requires focus. You know, I've seen many talented individuals drown in their personal lives while chasing professional success. You must learn to prioritize." Alex's heart raced at the implication. This man was like a wolf dressed in sheep's clothing, ready to give advice that only served to pull Alex further into the corporate grind. He refused to be a victim of that narrative. "I believe balance is key," Alex responded slowly, feeling a tide of determination swell within him. Pursuing goals shouldn't mean sacrificing what matters most. The CEO shrugged, almost dismissively. "In this game, what matters most is success. The rest can follow eventually. But those who refuse to sacrifice often get left behind." The conversation hung heavily between them, and with every exchange, Alex felt the walls of his resolve tightening. He recognized the challenge of standing his ground. This meeting wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a test of his newly forged convictions about work-life balance. Deep down, he sensed a defining moment was unfolding. "I'm not willing to compromise my values for success," Alex replied, his voice firmer now. "I want to be a role model for my daughter, to show her that it's possible to pursue goals without losing sight of what's truly important." The CEO lifted an eyebrow, intrigued. "Interesting. But let's face realities. If you miss this critical pitch, you may find yourself without the means to provide those cherished moments." His words hit Alex like a punch. The implications sunk in deeper. He could choose to clarify his commitment to his family, or capitulate to the all-consuming nature of ambition and competition. Just then, an unexpected thought pivoted through his mind. What if he could leverage this encounter to champion his perspective on work-life balance? He sensed the power dynamics shifting, an opportunity to turn the table. As he stood there, the gears of perception shifted within him. With every second that passed, he felt an internal fire igniting. Perhaps this meeting could serve as a platform for challenging corporate norms, instead of simply falling prey to them. "I'd like to propose a collaboration," Alex began, a plan forming in his mind. "Let's make a shift in the industry, prioritize well-being alongside performance. No one should have to choose between their family and their career." The CEO's brows furrowed. "You think that'll fly with investors?" "I believe it should," Alex asserted boldly, maintaining eye contact, unwavering. "And I think we can be the ones to start shifting that perspective." As he proposed this bold idea, he felt the weight of future possibilities resting on his shoulders. The very fabric of his plans to redefine success began stitching together an unexpected narrative. Yet, in that moment of newfound determination, a lingering dread weighed heavily. What would this mean for his place in the company? Outside, the sky darkened, reflecting the swell of uncertainty. The challenge was laid bare, and Alex knew the stakes were rising. The CEO's expression hardened as he considered Alex's words. The silence stretched, and he took a step backward, weighing options that felt palpable. Alex held his breath, heart racing, wondering if he had just opened a door to a new chapter, or sealed himself deeper into an insurmountable corporate game. The silence between them felt like an eternity, punctuated only by the beating of Alex's heart. He observed the CEO's customary stoic demeanor begin to waver. There was curiosity in his eyes, but also skepticism. Had he dared to challenge the standard? Perhaps you have a point, the CEO conceded cautiously. But you must recognize the risks. Putting empathy into a profit-driven landscape can feel like a luxury. It doesn't have to be, Alex replied, the certainty in his voice surprising even him. Imagine a workforce motivated not just by bonuses and KPIs, but by genuine connection and respect for their time outside of work. Employees who care about their roles perform better. The CEO regarded him for a moment, measuring Alex's intensity against the relentless pursuit of the bottom line he so faithfully championed. You want to develop a campaign around this notion? For real? Yes, Alex insisted, warmth blossoming inside him as he articulated the vision. Imagine a company culture where balance is celebrated, one that could drive loyalty, retention, and ultimately, profits. We can set an industry standard. As Alex laid out the plan, propelled by recent experiences, a vivid vision unfolded in his mind, one where he would lead profit and compassion, hand in hand, definition through transformation, legacy through connection. He envisioned a boardroom filled with skeptical faces turning into advocates for change, aligning with a new philosophy. You'd have to convince the stakeholders, the CEO said slowly. I will, Alex responded, unwaveringly committed. The CEO sized him up as if trying to gauge his resolve. All right, let's say I'm on board with this. What's your first step? Let's arrange a meeting with the top team to discuss how we can implement measurable changes. Alex's heart surged at that moment, a rush of empowerment washing over him. He realized he was not just negotiating for himself. He was negotiating for Lily, for every parent trying to make a life that wasn't dictated solely by work. With a hesitant nod, the CEO acknowledged the potential of the idea. I'll consider it. But remember, you're risking your standing in the company. A lot could happen. I accept that risk, Alex replied, grounding himself in the newfound strength he had recently uncovered. Because I believe the reward far outweighs the threat. The words resonated with a truth he had struggled to articulate amidst the cacophony of corporate life. As the CEO departed, Alex felt a lightness, an echo of triumph coursing through his veins. He had stood up for a shared vision, and in doing so, had forged a new trajectory, not just for himself, but for many others. He had transformed an opportunity for doubt into a declaration of change, the fertile ground for a new legacy. With Lily's laughter still resonating in the background, the minimized distractions of work began drifting away from him like wisps of cloud. There was much to do, yes, but now he felt equipped to handle it. He had not just balanced the scales in his life, he had championed for a more authentic existence. Later that evening, as he sat down to talk with Lily about her artwork, the colors in her drawings reminded him of the vibrancy he'd allowed to dim for too long. They discussed her day, her hopes, and the art she was creating. He engaged in this moment willingly, inviting every layer of connection to deepen the lessons hard-earned, from days of reflection beginning to coalesce into tangible, familial treasures. As they worked together on her drawings, it struck Alex how he had cultivated a path towards family that didn't compromise what it meant to be successful. In Lily's innocent artistry, he found the courage to redefine success itself, not measured in profits, but in love, fulfillment, and connection. Dad, she said, her face beaming with pride as she showed him another piece. Look at my superhero, he's strong and helps people. Alex smiled, the warmth spreading through him as he nodded. Just like I'm trying to be. They spent hours in this hopeful endeavor, and Alex realized that their time together was becoming an indelible part of him, much more valuable than any business meeting. In that moment, a kind of quiet confidence enveloped him. He could be both a successful professional and an engaged father. The next morning, as he entered the office, Alex felt a renewed energy pulsing through him. He was no longer just an architect of deals. He was a pioneer of change. His colleagues noticed the difference, and conversations surged with purpose and potential. The idea of transforming corporate culture gathered momentum. It was as if he sparked a fire. Everyone was eager to join. Weeks passed with Alex leading the initiative. Ideas for campaigns and new policies flowed from him, and soon enough, what started as a vision began to manifest itself in measurable commitments to work-life balance. By the end of the quarter, those measures had been implemented, and internal reviews showed surprising results. Employee morale had surged. Productivity saw significant gains, and retention figures delighted the board. As colleagues gathered to celebrate these achievements, Alex stood beside Lily, who was reveling in the joy of her father's newfound purpose. "Dad, are you going to keep helping people?" she asked, tugging at his sleeve. "Yes, I am," he affirmed, looking down at her, brimming with pride. "You've reminded me how important it is." That day, as he went home, the reality of his transformation washed over him. He was not just meeting corporate goals anymore. He was crafting a legacy, the legacy of a father who understood that presence was powerful, and empathy was invaluable. He lost the fear of choosing one world over another, realizing he could tip the scales with a conscious effort in life, love, and leadership. As the sun dipped below the horizon, staining the sky with colors of ambition, pride, and happiness, he knew this journey had only just begun. The path he had chosen to walk was distinctly his. It cascaded naturally toward fulfillment, though hard-earned, and rich with the lessons of connection. With every step, he knew he would embrace this opportunity for a truly complete life, balancing compassion at work, while nurturing love at home. The exhilarating satisfaction of personal triumph throbbed in his chest. He had achieved not just professional milestones, he had conquered a landscape fraught with emotion, doubt, and barriers. Alex Harrington, once a disconnected CEO, emerged triumphantly as a man who had dared to congeal success with sincere living, a light for his daughter to follow through life. Now, the moment had arrived to cement one last truth. Legacy is not just built in boardrooms but in the hearts of those we nurture, bringing genuine joy and transformation into every interaction. The journey forward was rich with promise, and Alex could finally step into the man he was always meant to be. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the power of personal overcoming stories.